July 1963. Inside the dusty archives of Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, a 520-page report was quietly filed away. Code name, Project Plowshare. Contents, a proposal to detonate 520 nuclear devices across the Israeli desert to connect the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. Cost estimate, $1.2 billion. Strategic value, infinite. You never heard about this document because it was classified for decades. When it was finally declassified, the world had moved on. But the plan never died. It just waited. Because what you're watching on television right now, what you're being told, is about religion, land, and ancient hatred, is actually about something far more tangible. It is about 12% of global trade. It is about $9 billion flowing through a single narrow waterway every single day. It is about who controls the map. This is the story of the Ben Gurion Canal, and this is the story of why Gaza sits exactly where someone decided it should not. The Suez Canal is not just a ditch in Egypt. It is the world economy's weakest link, 193 kilometers long, 300 meters wide at its narrowest point. Through this sliver of water passes 30% of global container traffic, every barrel of oil from Saudi Arabia to Europe, every semiconductor from Taiwan to Germany, every grain shipment from the Black Sea to Asia. Egypt makes $9.4 billion per year just for existing at this geographic lottery ticket. They did not build the canal. The French and British did in 1869, but Egypt got control of it in 1956. And since then, they have collected rent on the entire world's supply chain. When the Ever Given container ship ran aground in March 2021 and blocked the canal for 6 days, global trade lost $9 billion per day. Insurance companies panicked. Oil prices spiked. Factory assembly lines in Germany went silent because parts from China could not arrive. One ship, 6 days, $54 billion evaporated. That incident proved something every strategist already knew. The Suez Canal is a single point of failure for the global economy. And single points of failure are leverage. Whoever controls that leverage controls the negotiation. Now rewind to 1956. Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalizes the Suez Canal. He kicks out British and French operators and says Egypt will run it alone. Within months, Britain, France, and Israel launch a coordinated military invasion of Egypt. The world calls it the Suez Crisis. Textbooks say it was about decolonization and Arab nationalism. But read the cabinet meeting minutes from London and Paris, read the intelligence briefings. The word that appears over and over is not freedom or sovereignty. It is access. Trade access, naval access, economic access. They sent armies because a canal got nationalized. Not because of religion, not because of ideology, because trade routes are more valuable than territory, and whoever can close a trade route can blackmail continents. Nasser closed the canal. Britain and France sent warships. It is that simple. It has always been that simple. Fast forward to 1963. Israel approaches the United States with a question. What if we did not need the Suez Canal at all? What if we built our own? The idea was not new. As early as 1882, British engineers had studied the possibility of cutting a canal through Ottoman Palestine to bypass Egypt. But the terrain was difficult. The Negev Desert sits higher than sea level. You would need to move billions of tons of earth, unless you used nuclear explosives. Project Plowshare was a real United States Atomic Energy Commission program designed to use nuclear detonations for peaceful construction projects. They had already proposed using nukes to carve out harbors in Alaska and highways through mountains. Why not a canal through the desert? The declassified memo from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory outlines the plan in terrifying detail. 520 nuclear devices, each with a yield between 100 and 200 kilotons, detonated in sequence along a 260-kilometer route from the Mediterranean coast near Ashkelon down through the Negev to the Gulf of Aqaba on the Red Sea. The canal would be deeper than Suez, wider than Suez, able to handle bigger ships with faster transit times. No Egyptian tolls, no political risk from Arab nationalism, total control by a Western-aligned state. There was just one problem. The northern section of the proposed route ran directly adjacent to Gaza. Gaza in 1963 was under Egyptian control. It was poor, dense, and politically volatile. Running a nuclear excavation project next to a hostile population was considered too risky. The radiation fallout alone would be a diplomatic catastrophe, so the plan was shelved. But it was never abandoned. Because here is what nobody tells you about maps. Maps are not neutral. Every border, every line, every zone was drawn by someone with an interest. And interests do not expire. They wait. Look at the map of the proposed Ben Gurion Canal today. Now overlay it with the map of current conflict zones. Notice anything? The entire northern Gaza Strip sits on the exact route where the canal would need to begin. The buffer zones, the security perimeters, the cleared areas, all of it aligns with the 1963 blueprint. Coincidence? Maybe. But coincidences do not usually cost $9 billion per day. Now add another layer. In September 2023, at the G20 summit in New Delhi, the United States, India, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and the European Union announced a new infrastructure project, the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, codename IMEC. This is not a small deal. IMEC is designed to be a direct competitor to China's Belt and Road Initiative. It will connect Indian ports to Arabian Gulf ports by sea, then continue overland through Saudi Arabia and Jordan, and terminate at Israeli ports on the Mediterranean, specifically Haifa. From Haifa, goods will be shipped to Europe, bypassing the Suez Canal entirely, bypassing Egypt, bypassing any country that might decide to nationalize, close, or weaponize a choke point. But there is a problem. The overland route through Jordan to Haifa is vulnerable. It passes near volatile borders. It requires political stability in a region famous for instability. And it runs uncomfortably close to Gaza. If you are designing a trillion-dollar trade route, you do not want a hostile entity sitting on your flank. You need security, you need buffer zones, you need control. Suddenly, clearing Gaza is not about religion. It is about logistics. This is not speculation. This is how empires have always worked. Venice did not become the richest city in Europe because of pasta. It became rich because it controlled the spice trade routes from Asia to Europe. When the Ottomans cut off those routes, Venice collapsed. The British Empire did not conquer India because they loved tea. They conquered it to control textile production and trade routes to China. When the Suez Canal opened in 1869, Britain immediately moved to secure it because it cut travel time to India by months. Whoever controls the trade route controls the wealth. Whoever threatens the trade route gets removed. Right now, China is building ports in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Djibouti, and Greece. They're creating a maritime Silk Road that bypasses traditional Western shipping lanes. The West is responding with IMEC. The competition is not military, it is logistical, and in logistical competition, there are no second-place medals. You either control the route or you are irrelevant. So let us ask the uncomfortable question. If you were a strategic planner in Washington, London, or Tel Aviv, and you knew that the future of global trade depended on securing a corridor through the Middle East, and you knew that corridor had a vulnerability called Gaza, what would you do? You would not announce a canal project. That would be too obvious, too controversial, too easy to oppose. Instead, you would wait for a crisis. You would let tensions build naturally. And when the inevitable conflict erupts, you would use it as an opportunity to reshape the map under the cover of security operations. You would call it counterterrorism. You would call it self-defense. You would call it anything except what it actually is, economic engineering. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is documented history repeating itself with updated branding. In 1956, they called it the Suez Crisis. In 2024, they call it something else. But the mechanic is identical. A trade route is threatened. A military response follows. The map changes. Commerce flows. The difference is that in 1956, the world was not yet fully globalized. A canal closure was painful but survivable. Today, the global economy runs on just-in-time supply chains. A closure is catastrophic. A monopoly is unacceptable. So the West needs an alternative, and that alternative has a name. It has a route, it has a budget, and it has an obstacle. You're watching the obstacle being removed in real time. And while you argue about who is right and who is wrong, about history and religion and justice, the people drawing the maps are not arguing. They are calculating. They are measuring. They are projecting revenue over 30-year horizons. BlackRock does not care about theology. Shipping companies do not care about historical grievances. They care about transit times, insurance costs, and toll fees. And if a new route saves them 48 hours and $2 million per voyage, they will use it. And whoever built that route will become very, very rich. This is the part where you are supposed to feel something. Anger, maybe, disbelief, suspicion. But feelings do not change maps. Money does. The Ben Gurion Canal was proposed in 1963. It was shelved because the technology was too controversial and the geopolitics too unstable. 60 years later, the technology is irrelevant. Modern excavation does not need nukes. It just needs time and funding. And the geopolitics? Well, look around. IMEC was announced. Trade routes are being redrawn. Buffer zones are being established. And the northern Gaza Strip, the exact area where a canal would need to start, is being cleared. Maybe it is all a coincidence. Maybe none of this is connected. Maybe the declassified 1963 memo, the IMEC corridor, the Ever Given disaster, the current conflict are all just random events with no common thread. Or maybe you should look at the map one more time, follow the lines, follow the money, and ask yourself, when has war ever really been about what they told you it was about? History does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. And right now, it is rhyming in a very expensive accent. The canal is coming. The only question is what will be left when it arrives. If this video made you see the map differently, subscribe. We follow the money so you do not have to. And hit the like button, because the algorithm does not care about the truth unless you tell it to.